messed him up. Well, definitely trying to. Because then finally he ran out of speed, or the bad guy ran out of speed and hooked him up. But by then you got back a little too late. I wonder if Jens is going to make it today. Jens. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
You should go over and talk to my husband. Your green barrel's still out. Is that the house like?
Christina, we good to go?
Yes, Mayor, we're ready when you are.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the study session meeting of November 13, 2024 to order. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb? Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Gregory? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Ross? Mayor Carnavale?
Here. Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to the study session agenda?
I have no changes to the study session agenda, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, will you please read the closed session items?
Mayor Carnavale, we actually have public comments.
Public comments. I overlooked that. Sorry. Public comments?
Statement of participation. Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The Mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the City Clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the City Clerk for distribution. Mayor, I did not receive any requests to speak forums. However, we did receive a couple of written comments, and I'm going to go ahead and read those names now. These have been submitted to the members of the council. They're in the front for review. The names are Lori Jones, David Wilton, Stephen Witterick, Denise Evans, Scott McDonald, and Ken Peary, and they will be made part of the record as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Public comments closed.
Are there any other members of the public that did not send a request to speak for him? And I see none, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the closed session
I'd be
agenda?
happy to do that, Mayor. We have a number of items on the closed session today. First, we have a conference with your labor negotiator. Your labor negotiators on this item are Algeria Ford of my office, the Assistant City Attorney, and Eugenia Torres, your Human Resources Manager. The employee organization under discussion is the Police Officers Association. We have 3 items of pending litigation: the Toledo matter, the Peerless at Mammoth matter, and the Levick matter. I will note for the record that we did receive a written comment which will be included in the minutes from Mr. Levick regarding his lawsuit. And finally, we have 1 item of anticipated litigation. It's a claim for damages from Z Energy Capital, LLC. And that concludes it. I don't believe there are any comments on the closed session items other than the written one, but if there are, they could make them at this time. If not, you can recess in a closed session.
No comments?
See none.
I see none. Okay. Thank you. Well, we're going to adjourn until after recess on closed session. Thank you. Okay, thank you for waiting. We'll start our study session. Yeah, we'll have the city attorney read. Will the city attorney please read the closed session? Do you have anything to report of closed session?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, Mayor. We did meet in closed session. The city council had a labor negotiation item which it completed and gave direction to its two labor negotiators. You also had a briefing from city attorney and special counsel with regard to 3 items of existing litigation and 1 item of a anticipated litigation, a claim that had been filed. You gave direction to city attorney and special counsel on all of those items. Other than that, there was no other reportable action. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Study session, item A, discussion of future land uses with the North City Specific Plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Sandra Molina, our Deputy Director of Community and Economic Development, is going to present this item on some potential options for development in the North City area and some constraints that it faces that may ultimately find their way to you all. So, Sandra?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. So as indicated by City Manager, this item is a discussion of land uses within the North City Specific Plan. More specifically, that the City Council discuss and provide direction on whether the council is open to a development concept within this area that doesn't have the urban build-out that was contemplated under the specific plan. Additionally, we're going to request that some direction with regard to negotiation of affordable housing when we have a specific plan amendment. So this slide is being provided for context. We have the North City Specific Plan, about 5,000 acres, and there's also the North City Extended Specific Plan. The I-10 freeway is, or I should say these specific plans are to the north of the I-10 freeway. It extends west to Palm Drive. The North City Specific Plan extends east to Duval and its future extension, and the North City Extended Specific Plan continues on to Bob Hope. So there's about 5,600 acres combined with these two specific plans, and as you can see, this area is primarily undeveloped. The infrastructure that would be needed to develop the area, one consideration for development, there's very limited infrastructure in this area. This slide shows the zoning districts within the North City Specific Plan and within the Extended Specific Plan. And the North City Specific Plan was adopted in 2009, but the planning for it started in 2007. It was a bold and ambitious plan. It was meant to capitalize on expected population boom back in 2007, 2009. The Coachella Valley at that time was about 400,000 people, and it was expected population would grow to 1 million in the Coachella Valley region. And as we know, that did not materialize. But because it was expected, this plan intended to capitalize on that. And so because the market was expected to be strong, the plan anticipated or planned for big box commercial, regional malls, high density mixed use to take advantage of population and to take advantage of those uses. The North City Extended Specific Plan, this is just for reference. When it was adopted several years later, it followed the same premise as far as build out and density and population. But however, as the City Council may recall, we are working on a project that was applied to rescind this specific plan and do an industrial development. So that's just for context. The discussion will focus on North City. So again, this is the zoning district map for North City Specific Plan. Here you have Varner Road. This is what would be the extension of Duval, the freeway, Palm Drive, and Valley Center is this dashed line right in here. And so the specific plan has designations that are in our traditional zoning map, but it also established 4 new designations. And the designations to discuss this evening is the mixed-use urban, which is this red color here along what will be Duval and the freeway. And just a little above that, you have mixed-use neighborhood, and you also see mixed-use neighborhood over on the west end off of Palm Drive. So the mixed-use urban is probably it's the highest density that's allowed under the specific plan. It anticipates up to 45 dwelling units per acre, again, to capture regional community scale commercial uses, malls, big box, and in support of those highly intensive commercial uses, also the population that would be housed within these areas. The mixed-use neighborhood was intended to be of a lower density housing, and the type of commercial uses it anticipated were more service related. And so those that would serve the immediate neighborhood, and the residents in this area could go to the mixed-use urban areas for entertainment, large-scale shopping, and things of that nature. Mixed-use neighborhood was anticipated at 25 dwelling units per acre. So the premise of the North City specific plan, that population growth, the strong market, we know that did not materialize. And because of that, the City Council in 2022 recognized these things. And because of that, they adopted the North City specific plan's economic development resolution. The resolution identified that the Great Recession occurred, that decimated the economy. It also doesn't really talk about this too much, but think about that, the face of retail has changed. Brick and mortar, we're not going to see very much of that, if any. So what we do see is a lot of service-related type of commercial uses. So that changed as well. So you had population, you had the market trends, and then also just how retail and commercial has changed. So in light of that, the City Council did adopt in 2022 this resolution. It expressed that the city is open to considering alternative high-quality development, not considered in the specific plans. And in doing that, they also identified that they would consider alternative land uses that did these 5 things: created industrial, manufacturing, office, or commercial spaces to attract a diverse array of businesses, increases city revenues beyond simple just annual increases in property tax, creates diversity of quality employment opportunities for the residents, provides backbone infrastructure to facilitate future development, and also enhances the visual attractiveness of the city. So these are the points that the resolution identified. So the Community and Economic Development Department was approached by Blue Fern Development and their team regarding developing about 570 acres in the North City specific plan. And they are currently under their due diligence efforts. So the area, the 570 acres, more or less, is this area here, west of the future extension of Duval, north of the freeway. You see it bounded in the white line. So Varner Road does go through this area, as well as the town Valley Center. And so again, mixed-use urban towards the south, north of that is a mixed-use neighborhood. So Blue Fern provided the city with 2 alternative high-level concept plans for development of the area, considering up to 2,700 single-family and multifamily units, including amenities and parks and trails, and also substantial on- and off-site infrastructure improvements that would need to occur to support the development. The land use concepts, and these concepts were provided in the agenda report for the council as well, but the concepts, it's not only a shift from what was contemplated under the North City specific plan, it does not accomplish all of the goals articulated through the economic development resolution. So because of that, staff is elevating the preliminary concepts to the council for their review and their discussion, and to provide feedback to the prospective developer that may guide the future application submittals to the city. As well as this discussion may also help us to delve deeper into the negotiation of affordable housing as part of applications that look for amendments. And that's a program in our housing element that encourages the city to do that. So you have 2 different alternatives that were presented to the city. One is alternative 1, which is market rate. It has up to 2741 units. Again, it'll be highly amenitized. You'll have a range of apartments, townhomes, condos and paired homes, and those uses are primarily on the south side of this site. And then you have single-family detached with densities up to 5.5, and that would be north of Valley Center in this area here. So that's the market rate, and very clearly it says these are market rate units that are under this concept. Alternative 2 is active adult. So the active adult, the proposer contemplates something similar to the Del Webb's active community that we see in the valley. But again, highly amenitized, lower densities than the market rate alternative 1. It's up to 10 dwelling units per acre with some of the housing concepts and typologies. So we want to provide a comparison to the council. So what we did is provide in this chart the uses that are permitted under the North City specific plan under mixed-use urban and mixed-use neighborhood in comparison to Blue Fern's proposal for market rate and active adult. But what we also wanted to do is look at what's going on in neighboring cities. So we did a quick search. Palm Desert and Indio have these really great interactive GIS maps that we can look at projects. And so what we did was looked at projects that are either approved, pending, in construction along the I-10 corridor. And what we're seeing is that the densities are about 23 to 22 dwelling units per acre. In Indio, about the same. There's this one project that has 32, so it's a little higher. But what this is telling us is that the density that was contemplated under the North City specific plan may not be realistic in today's market. And I think the best indicator of that is what we're seeing as far as development. And so that's a consideration for the council this evening. I do want to also note that in doing this research and looking at residential development along the freeway, I also took a look at the type of commercial developments that are happening. Again, what we're seeing are quick service food uses, automotive-related uses, and hotels. We're not seeing big box. We're not seeing regional malls like was contemplated. So as I had mentioned, the high-level concepts don't quite accomplish the goals that were stated in the economic development resolution, but what it does provide is an opportunity that the resolution did not consider, and that's affordable housing. The City Council heard a discussion by Economic Development Manager Eric Becerril a few meetings ago. He talked about our housing element, that we have a compliant, certified housing element through the state. We also talked about housing production and where we're at with relation to the number of units that were anticipated or that was planned for in the 8-year housing cycle. So we do have that certified housing element, but it's not enough. The private market, because there was a discussion about the private market and what it should be doing, but the private market's not building affordable housing. They're building at moderate levels and above moderate income household levels. And again, we have a program in our housing element that says, city, when we do have proposers for specific plans, PUDs, let's negotiate for the inclusion of affordable housing. And so that's a consideration if the council were to give the staff and the developer an indicator that this is an alternative plan that could be considered. We should look at this. And what we're looking at and what's in the staff report is maybe it's 10 to 15% of their build out needs to be affordable. This 10 to 15% is fairly consistent with what you'll see in inclusionary housing ordinances, and so that's why that number is thrown out there. And this last bullet, this is just an FYI, is that whenever we look at development that has a residential component to it, and that residential component and that number of homes was considered in the housing element, we want to make sure that subsequent development does not reduce that capacity. And so that's just an FYI. Sure.
Came to the conclusion of affordable housing. So when you're building a large parcel and you're talking about putting in some affordable housing, does affordable housing mean today's rates forever? Or does it mean today's rates, but it goes up with the national average? I mean, let's say you build something and the rents are going to be $1,000 a month. Well, that's not going to work in 10 years. We know that. So how does affordable housing scale?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that one. It's,
Sorry, I broke
It's
her.
based on income. So as income changes, the AMI changes, that rate would change.
And do we have reporting that although lower income wages, or lower income, that's why they're called that, but they move at the same rate as other income? So although they may remain some of our lower paid jobs, they still go up in value? The properties and the,
yeah.
yes? You have statistical information on that?
Because as that AMI is established, the household income levels are based off that AMI. So that area median income. So if that area median income goes up, the household levels are always going to be based upon that median level. So yes, it'll scale with it.
Okay, thank you.
Very similar to Ross's here. What is considered affordable housing when it comes to either renting or purchasing a home? Do you have a dollar amount?
Not on me. Our housing element did identify those levels, those rent levels or purchase levels based upon the different income levels, but I don't have that with me.
If you can get that for us, that will be great.
I'd be happy to.
And
So,
Sandra, Sandra, I had a question too. Thank you so much. You had a chart, and you talked about the number of units or properties available per unit, per acre, and you said, and I kind of missed it there, but you said how what our original intention was is no longer is not as viable. Didn't say it wasn't viable. It's not as viable. So could I? Oh, that's the chart. Okay. So I wasn't. So the suggestion is, in other words, not having properties that are 3 to 5.5 acres. In other words, we're using too much property for a dwelling. Is that what you're? I didn't quite get what that was. Conversation was about.
The number of dwelling units per acre has to do with density and how
Right.
intensive you would have a.
Right.
And what we're suggesting is that what was under the specific plan may not be realistic. Blue
okay.
Fern's proposing densities at a much, at a lesser level than the North City specific plan, and even a little bit less than what we're seeing in Palm Desert and Indio as far as their densities. But the intention with this chart is to demonstrate that the market, that what we're seeing being built there, and the market's driving that density.
Oh, I see.
Is still less than what was contemplated back in 2009.
Okay. It's the market. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I was confused on this part too, because the plan has an up to, right, a density up to a certain amount. And so what I see is putting here is that, okay, well, there's some proposed development there and the density is less. So I didn't think it was ever a problem if the density was less, only if they wanted to go over what was already zoned. So I'm a little, that part confused me a little bit too. And then when you look at the neighboring cities that you put up here, the proposed density is even less than theirs. So I'm not sure if that was presented as a problem for us or.
It's not necessarily a problem, but it's different. It's not, so under the North City specific plan, they had density, but it was also like mixed use. And so it expected that you'd have commercial development and you'd have mixed use involved with that. In the mixed use urban, we wanted high density communities so that residents had entertainment, they had, these regional shopping opportunities. And so what we're seeing, and the mixed-use neighborhood to a lesser extent, but what we're seeing is that that's not what's being built out there.
I see. So what you're saying is the proposal was for lower density. And so I guess where I'm confused is there was some discussion with the last meeting about being able to incent developers to do things like include affordable housing if we allowed them to increase the density over what was initially planned in a project, and that would give them incentive perhaps because they would be able to then build more units on a limited amount of property. And you may have been referring, of course, to other parts of town, but then this comes and it's like, well, they want to build less dense than what was originally planned, and perhaps this is an opportunity to incent them to build affordable housing. So I'm getting a little confused about, well, what are the incentives based on, and why would they be incented to build affordable housing in developments that are less dense than what was originally planned?
So when we look at affordable housing, we want to look at all creative opportunities and ways that we can work and negotiate with developers to get affordable housing. One way is by allowing increases in density beyond what's allowed. And state law already provides for that in density bonus agreements. And so you can have more density provided you meet certain income levels.
Yes.
But other opportunities.
I picked that up
Yeah.
from last time, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking as far
Yep.
as incentives. Okay.
That's one opportunity, but other opportunities, maybe a developer wants to change the zoning from commercial to residential. That's a legislative act that comes before our city council. City council has an opportunity to say, you want to do residential, you want to change our zoning, how can we negotiate some affordable housing? So here we're talking about a proposal that is strictly residential, so there's not going to be any commercial component associated with it in these 570 acres. There's other opportunities for commercial within the specific plan. But still, the concept's a little bit different than what was anticipated. There's an opportunity here still to look at affordable housing. I think that some correspondence that we received, they're open to that as well. But we want to get the flavor of the council. Like, do you want us to negotiate those type of things when we are looking at a specific plan amendment, when we're looking at a PUD?
Okay. So let me, just while we're here, let me touch a little bit on RENA numbers. And when we did the general plan, and especially the housing element, of course, that was the goal, is we had to make sure that we had zoned dense enough in certain locations so that we could show that if somebody just came and built by right, they could meet the RENA numbers. Developers could meet the RENA numbers. And one of the warnings was that if we then later took properties that were zoned for denser housing and we reduced the density, that might affect our RENA numbers, because we were effectively coming in and saying, oops, we're not saying that there's enough property that's zoned outright to meet the RENA numbers. So has staff looked at if we went with either one of these changes, which appear on their face to reduce density? And I know what you're saying, but there was more than just housing in there. There was also commercial and perhaps industrial in some areas. But how are we looking at if that reduces density? Is that going to cause us an issue? Because then the powers that be in the states can come back and say, well, you had this zone more densely, and now you're proposing to lower the density, and so then you're not meeting your RENA numbers.
Yeah. And that's a great question, because that's something we're also cognizant of. And so what Blue Friend wants is trying to get a sense of is there enough of support for them to continue on with their due diligence? There's still a lot of work that we would need to do, and that's exactly what we would be doing, a council member.
And I think that would be one important element, because it depends. If it comes back and it says, well, yeah, the council's okay with this, but it causes an issue because now we have to find other parcels that are already zoned, and we have to try to work to upzone them, because that's the only way we can stay within our housing element, because you're not building enough here as was planned.
So I had a very short conversation with our consultant that did our housing element and asked these exact same questions.
Okay, good.
Looking at the mixed-use neighborhood, which is the anticipated residential, single-family development, lower density, in eyeballing that, I think that's going to be okay. The mixed-use urban, which is the higher intensity designations, we need to take another look at. But one thing that the consultant did tell us is that when the housing element was prepared, it wasn't a straight acre for acre. There's 5,000 acres in the specific plan. It wasn't 5,000 acres times 45. There was anticipated, some would be commercial, some would be residential, and so there was a percentage of anticipated residential development. And so that's what analysis that we would have to go back and look at.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think you're done with your presentation yet, are you? You're not
I
ready
just
for,
have-
you're not ready for guidance yet or anything, so we'll come back to that later. Thank you, Mayor.
May I just ask a question, please?
Sure.
So I know enough about building to get in trouble, right? When you're building low-income housing, it's going to be tighter because the rents are lower. And in the end, the person has to offset, what things are going to cost and if they can make that work. So if we want to support low-income housing, then we have to look at a lower density or apartments or townhouses or things that allow more people to live in a smaller area, because in the end, somebody's got to get paid for it.
One of the things that, when we talk to developers or builders about affordable housing, if that's not their area of expertise, we encourage them to partner with a affordable housing developer. Because there's a lot of variables that go into that. The density goes into that. What the rents are, is it going to be rental or ownership? And ownership's a lot more problematic to meet that. So I understand what you're saying. We're just barely touching the surface of the entire discussion for the project.
Sure, I just don't want to be Pollyanna.
Okay. Yep. So as Councilmember Gregory indicated, but I'm almost done here. So and our agenda report did talk about consistency with our strategic plan. So in the 15 years since the specific plan has been adopted, again, the areas remained primarily vacant. And the economic development resolution was intended to help incentivize development, and yet we're still not seeing it. So the question for the council is this concept of residential development, not mixed use, not high urban density, is it a development pattern that the council is open to? And what direction does the council offer for negotiation of affordable housing as part of a specific plan amendment? And again, I understand it's a high-level concept, but it doesn't hit the marks of that resolution, all 5 of those marks. But again, it does provide us an opportunity for not only the affordable housing, but also to spur a development on the surrounding properties. Because this concept, whether it's the alternative or the active, there's going to be substantial infrastructure improvements that are going to need to be done. And that would help, carry the burden for adjacent properties. So, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. So I will speak for me, and I think the simple answer for me as well, that maybe it depends. So I think, at least for me, when the council took the action that they did in 2022, we did want to be open to all types of uses, realizing that although it was well thought out at the time, that, as you have pointed out, that history has shown us that development hasn't taken off in those areas for a number of reasons. So we wanted to be open for other uses. So when I look at something like this, I am okay with moving forward and exploring what needs to be done to move it forward. But I want to be careful. I want to be careful and caution. I wouldn't necessarily be open to changing the whole North City so that the whole North City now turns into residential only, that type of thing. I think there needs to be some type of balance there, and I don't profess to know exactly what that balance is, but I think that would be a consideration. So while I'm saying I would be open to anything, and I have no problems, of course, with having appropriate residential housing in that area, wouldn't want to signal that we should rewrite the whole North City that way. I think that we had other goals as were articulated as to having employment, having tax-producing businesses, those types of things that would be in the North City that would, again, be appropriate to be near residential. But so we would need to take those into consideration for any type of en masse, rewrite of the North City plan. But as far as it comes to these proposals, they look good to me, especially as you pointed out, there is nothing there now, and whatever goes there needs to pencil out so that it will cover the costs of bringing some of the needed utilities and other amenities into that area. So that part I'm interested in. Now, when it comes to the affordable housing part of it, that sounds great, but it needs to be part of that whole package, and because it doesn't do us any good to do something like that then adds costs to the developer if we haven't, again, balanced that out with the costs that they're already going to have to put out to develop in that area. And, getting all the way down to it, it doesn't do us any good to say, okay, yeah, we'll allow changes in development, but we're going to add these things that make it so that you can't develop, because then you end up with zero housing units,
Understood.
affordable housing units that you have. But if it would make sense for us to at least look at that for any type of development, because we do our kind of, whether we want to or not, that is part of our task, is to try to incentivize the development of affordable housing. And so I don't know if what a 10% level, a 15% level, I know we're kind of talking high level, and I assume that you're just looking to say, well, would we be willing to look at it at all? And for me, I would say yes, but then of course it opens up 1,000 questions as to, well, what are other areas doing? Is that appropriate for this area, considering some of the other costs that would be involved, at least with the initial developments in this area, those types of things. So I can say yes, I think that it would be appropriate for us to have that discussion, but there's very many factors, which is why I get back to, well, maybe, as my stance on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Now?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay. All right, sorry, my thing's also not doing it yet. So just one back. I've always called it the North Not-So-Specific Plan, because we knew that set in stone, and then you do something years later, it never can be exactly as it was. I am generally in favor of a program like this, of a development like this, but I would feel more comfortable, and I would be more of a rally girl for you if we did have some understanding of what the percentage of low-income housing that would be a part of this development. How is it going to be 20%? Is it going to be 7%? I mean, it would affect my vote for sure. Thank you.
Yes. I also agree that we need to have a balance, that I am open for residential, but if we do leave some parcels, or if we leave some land for commercial and industrial use, I will be actually in support of that. I definitely, and I agree with what Councilmember Gregory mentioned, that we need to have a balance, and having so much acreage out there and utilizing all that for residential, I don't think that will be the most balanced thing to do. So I believe some commercial and some industrial I will be supportive of that.
I agree. I would be supportive. Thank you.
Would a mobile home park be considered as affordable housing or housing, low-income housing, if they put a limit on the size of the manufactured home and the size square foot of it? Would that be something we could look into? And essentially a retirement community as well, Coachella Valley. Would that be included in any of this property here, or could it be?
It's something we can explore with the proposer.
I'm sorry?
It's something that we could explore with the proposer. The proposals, the high-level concepts didn't include manufactured homes, but it's something that we can have a discussion about.
Okay. And then I kind of agree with everybody on this council here as far as mixed use for housing and manufacturing. But as you know, a moratorium was placed on cannabis distribution or dispensaries, except on the north side. Would any of that be allowed? Is this a green zone?
I would need to check the zoning
Yeah,
that.
I know. That's what I want to clear up
Yeah.
right now.
I would check the zoning that it's allowed in the, on the north end. I'd have to see.
Okay.
Again, these particular 570 acres is proposed to be residential, open space, some trails.
Okay.
There's other areas that are designated for business park or, mixed-use urban that may allow it.
Right. Okay, all right. So,
Thank
Charlie, you got any direction on what we're,
I think that's clear. I think if I summarize it, that certainly you're open to considering something like that. There are a number of factors that would need to be considered as part of it. You don't want to completely wipe out the entire North City plan, but for this area, you're open to that and believe that negotiating some affordable housing covenants to the extent that that pencils out and doesn't make the development unfeasible, that you'd be supportive of that.
Mayor, if I could, I wanted to respond back to Councilmember Gutierrez's question about affordable housing cost. I'll be quick. Every year, State Housing and Community Development posts a publication that provides the area median income for each county in the state. And they also have another document that allows you to calculate what affordable housing cost is. Your area median income for Riverside County is $97,500. That's median. So there's low income, very low income, extremely low income, and acutely low income, which you can see on the chart. And it depends, that number changes depending on its occupancy house of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 8 or more. As an example, area median income in Riverside County for low income is $82,000. To find the affordable housing cost, you take 30% of that $82,000. That's provided in state law, which gives you $24,600. That's the most somebody could be charged for either rent or a mortgage, and that includes all utilities, property tax, and homeowners insurance.
Wow.
It can't be more than that to be considered affordable for somebody at low income. That equals about $2,050 a month. And then again, that changes depending on whether it's a 4-person home or a 1-person home or something. I can provide you the links. I'm sure Sandra can provide you those links later on, and so you can get a feel for what all of those affordable costs would be. Thank you.
all right, thank you. Any public comments?
Mayor, I did not receive any requests to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
This is for presentation only, no formal action. Item B, street sweeping communication. Mr. City Manager, we have a staff report.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll give you an update on a new program that we have launched. One of your objectives was to give people notification prior to the day that their streets are going to be swept so that they could move their cars out of the street, and this will be a step in that direction. Ryan?
Thank you, City Manager. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, good to be with you this evening to talk about street sweeping communications. As the City Manager just mentioned, it's always nice when we can come to you and check off something that was on your strategic plan items and to-do lists. So I'm going to go over kind of how we did that, but normally we put that at the end, but we wanted to call attention to that. It is a specific communication or specific strategic plan goal to B7, which is communicate with residents to move parked vehicles on street sweeping day. So as I mentioned, this was one of the goals, was to come up with a solution to communicate these updates to our neighborhoods. It's not just been an effort by Communications and Events, far from it. I want to make sure I give credit to IT and John de Guzman and his team. Public Works Maintenance and PD have all been working together on this project for implementation for the notification system that can be used for targeted communications to specific residents. And so the citywide street sweeping program is the first program that we're using this communications tool to be able to kind of get the word out, but it will have other uses down the road, I think, and a lot more flexibility for us to do things, and I'll kind of highlight kind of where we're thinking on that. But I wanted to be clear, though, the street sweeping program does not include private streets, unimproved streets, and gated communities, so that's not included in the program, but we are able to do kind of targeted and strategic communications and are already doing so. It's underway. We launched the new Code Red system in October 2024. It's been in every weekly newsletter, been on social media. We pushed it just about everywhere to be able to sign up. The city can activate the notification system for street sweeping notifications, but we're also thinking it could be useful when it comes to road construction projects, garbage and recycling service updates, or other incidents with broad public impact. So we wanted to kind of start the first phase with the street sweeping communication since it was on the strategic plan goals, but we certainly think we can get a lot more usage out of this software down the road. Public Works has taken the lead. Deanna Prescarove's done a terrific job of being able to implement the street sweeping alerts, and the system launch has been successful. IT has submitted shape files. We have 8 zones that are carved out for the different street sweeping communications. That was something we already inherited. I just don't think that many people knew about it. So this is allowing us to use the technology and the GIS mapping that we had to be able to make sure if you're in zone 1, let's say that's the first Monday, I'm using hypotheticals here, but you'll get that notification, whereas zone 2, it won't just go out to everybody all at once. So it eliminates the inconvenience of having widespread citywide alerts and be able to do targeted communications. To sign up to receive these free notifications from the city's community notification system, all you have to do is text city alerts to 24639. Residents will then receive a link to the Code Red webpage. Now, that doesn't mean that their number is not already a part of the Code Red system. Due to landline, most of those are on public directories. That information that is public data, Code Red already had inherited. So we're not starting from scratch. But what the advantage to signing up is really you can kind of customize the way that you prefer to receive these alerts. So if you don't really like phone calls, then you can say, I don't want phone calls, just send me a text message, or I just really prefer this going to my Gmail. Could you just send me an email? You can kind of really manage that in the system once you sign up. So we still want people as much as possible to be able to sign up. However, if you're getting the notification, you're getting the calls, you're happy with how it's going, and you like the notifications, you certainly can keep it as is. And you can also opt out of the communications too. So this isn't mandated by any stretch. But these targeted areas, the designated areas that I'll highlight on the map here in just a minute, have been really useful to be able to at least start launching the street sweeping notifications, which I believe have been, John can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Dan has been doing this for the past few weeks. Thank you. Got one. Good. This is just a marketing graphic that we put out with a QR code. You can either scan that or text city alerts, as I mentioned. You'll get a text message back. It'll give you the link to the login, and then you can go through that process of putting your own user profile and kind of customizing how you want to receive the alerts. Do you have a question, Councilmember?
Yes. How do you plan to promote this?
Yeah, so we've promoted it already on discovercathedralcity.com, so it's on our website. We have a sign-up link, I believe, on cathedralcity.gov as well, and then we put it on all of our social media channels, and then it's been in every weekly Discover Digest newsletter, which goes out to about 3,000 subscribers. So we're going to continue that. I think it's been, the repetition's key with particularly things like this, so we're going to make sure that it stays, out there quite a bit, and then hopefully we'll be able to get some media engagement out there too, that we're doing this tool. We're not unique necessarily in the sense of signing up for a platform like this, but we're not turning down any option to be able to promote this. We're doing everything we usually would normally do to promote programs like this.
And how has the response been so far?
It's been good. I think the most, and I don't have the specific tally of how many have signed up. I'll get that information to you. But Nextdoor is where we had the most success as far as what I could see clicks to actual sign up, which makes a lot of sense. It's a very neighborhood-oriented kind of communication system. So we have had the most success on Nextdoor getting people to sign up.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. So just going through some of the FAQs and some questions that I think we may be likely to get, or you all may be likely to get as council members, but does Code Red already have my phone number? I already went through that. While if you have a landline number and you're in like the white pages, it's publicly listed, they probably have that data, but we don't want anybody to assume that they're on any list. So that's why we're really pushing signups to be able to customize the alerts. And so you can visit our website, which is discovercathedralcity.com. and you can look at the link for the Code Red enrollment page to register online. They also have a mobile app too. I know some people don't need another app on their phone, but there is the ability to get it through the app too if you want, and all of this is free. There's no payment or subscription fee for our residents. This is free to be able to use at their convenience and their disposal. So you can register more than one phone number and or email address if you'd like, but it's highly recommended that you register at least one phone number and one email address for this to work as effectively as possible. If there's an incident that may occur late in the night or a power outage when you're generally asleep, it's nice to be able to have as many options available to us to get the information. Now, that's more in the case of an emergency, which I think fire is already doing that with Rivco alerts and partnering with the county. So this will be more neighborhood-oriented communications that we'll be using Code Red for. But I wanted to highlight this too, that if you missed the phone call, and I was a Code Red user in my last stop too, so they'll definitely leave you a voicemail with the exact message and details. So you'll be able to get that information if you missed the call, and then you'll know that it's not a spam number. And if you are getting these calls, it's another reason we wanted to call awareness to this as a study session item, and for you all as council, if you're getting resident questions, this is a legitimate service. If you get these calls, it's legit. So don't think that it's something that you need to block or get rid of. You certainly can, but we're using this in good faith to be able to try to work out on a solution to be able to get more cars off the street so we can conduct these street sweeping operations more effectively. So here's the kind of map that I was talking to you about. So the zones, I've got it kind of color coded down at the bottom to match the colors that we have on the different zones. But you can see most of this takes place on either a Monday or a Thursday. Zone 8, which is down at the bottom, the southern tip of Cathedral City, is the second Friday. But it's usually either the first, second, third, fourth Monday or the first, second, third Thursday as well. So just to kind of give you a breakdown. So these maps, IT then took a shape file of each one of these, put it into the system, and now Deanna, when she's sending out these, or Luis on her team are sending these alerts out, they have which zone they can pick, and then they'll be able to kind of customize that message for each neighborhood. So this is presented for information only. No action is needed, but I'm certainly available for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Council, any questions?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that there is a message that is going to be either a phone call or a message that's going to be left at the residence or the owner of the phone number. Now, have you considered also sending a text?
Yeah, so it does text, email, and phone call.
Oh, so that's all
yes,
three.
you have all three options available, and you can customize. So like I was saying, if you don't really want, hey, I really don't like the phone calls, and you can just say, hey, I only want texts or emails. So you can do that based on preference. But all three options are available. Phone call, which they'll leave a voicemail if you don't answer, text message, and what I've noticed about Code Red too, which I think is good, sometimes these go straight to spam filters. They've done a good job of being able to get around that from a security feature. So these text messages I think, have a pretty good success rate of getting to your phone. Text message, and then email is another option that you can choose as well.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Couple of questions for you, please.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
So
Yes, ma'am.
are you going to be giving a bilingual opportunity on your text messages?
I believe that the Code Red software does allow us to do English and Spanish. I'll double check that, but I'm almost positive there is a language
I like how you
preference there.
clarified that in case it was really Bengali and English or something like that.
Yeah. But we do have the ability to communicate in Spanish. Yes.
And then I imagine going forward, as you finesse this, we could also use it as an emergency system. If we have a missing child, if we have and be able to target it to neighborhoods and.
So I think, and I certainly want to allow City Manager's office to kind of talk about this too, because I know the fire department is working with Rivco Alerts to do more of the emergency communication related to that. I think we're going to see how that works as far as, storm communications, getting those type of notifications. But you're right, something uniquely
Neighborhood-ish.
Neighborhood issue, something unique like that, it certainly could be utilized to do any of that type of messaging for sure.
I hope we can envision that for the near future.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Ryan. Public comments?
Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. This was for presentation only. Thank you. Council goals adopted over the past 5 years. Mr. City Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll do this one. I don't have a formal presentation for this. I'll tell you what I did, And what I think that will be a good response from you all, if you find things in the reports that you think were overlooked or need to be added in a future agenda setting session, to bring that to our attention. But what I compiled for your information, and this is also in response to a council goal that was adopted this year. I went back to 2020, the last 5 years, and we took the goal statements, and actually I attached the one from the end of the year when we report on what happened. So it has the goal statement, and it has under each one, what was done to achieve those. For 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24. For 24, it's not the full year end, so I did the one from last August when we gave you the update, because of course we're not through this year yet. So those are included. I think we did a pretty good job through the years of addressing most of the goals or carrying them over to the next year if we were unable to. There were 2 years where there's exceptions to that. In 2020, when we had the COVID pandemic and we had to reduce staff and cut budgets and everything that happened then, a lot of things got pushed to future years then, because it was just not possible to get them done. Likewise, in 2023, when you had Tropical Storm Hillary, and we had to make some intentional budget decisions to defer some items to future years, I think you'll see that most of those that were deferred carried over into 2024. Some of them have a note in them that says this will be included as we prepare the 25-26 biennial budget, because even just carrying them over to this year, if there's still no money, didn't address the issue. So my suggestion as you look at these is, if you find items that you feel like were inadequately addressed, or we tried to get it carried over and didn't, or something like that, you can bring it to my attention when we have our update meetings, or shoot me an email or something, and I'll try to compile those, and we'll provide that for you at your next goal setting session. Or you can use that meeting to bring anything up that you feel didn't receive the attention that was due to it during these. So I don't really know what else to say about those. I think it would take hours for me to go through 5 years worth, every single one. So I've kind of relied on you to take that information and bring it to our attention to the extent that you feel like that's necessary. So if you have any specific questions, the departments are available to answer questions on a specific goal statements related to their departments. And as a matter of course, what we do after your goals are set is, at the department level, then we sit down and divide them up and decide who's the lead department on each one, and they put that in their departmental work plans to make sure that they get addressed. And in the last year and a half, every week at our staff meeting, we go take one of the goals and we just talk through the status of everything that's on that, to make sure that they're not being dropped. And I hope you've noticed that has helped in that regard. So,
Charlie, I totally agree with you. I think that's a great idea. Council, do you have any questions or comments? You'll agree with what city manager wants to do?
Charlie, I'm very surprised that a lot of the goals have been met, and going through all of them, you can actually acknowledge that a lot of our goals and sites that we had over the last 5 years, a lot of them have been accomplished. There's still a few more that need to be accomplished, but it is surprising that we have accomplished so much. So thank you.
Thank you. I think we have too. And those ones that we haven't, bring them to my attention, and we'll get it compiled for you and go over those in more detail at the next goal setting session.
Yeah, I totally agree. Plus, we have more staff than we did 5 years ago, and priority was always an issue with what was to be done. And I think staff, Cathedral City has done excellent on that. So any questions from public comment?
If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none there.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to recess till 5:30. We'll see you then.